All right. Today's President's Day. So, did you celebrate President's Day? I didn't celebrate last year or last 4 years because I was kind of embarrassed of that guy. This year, not so much. It's been a pretty good first few weeks. Maybe you agree, maybe you don't. Either way, let's be a little controversy because, it's a new world that we live in. Tonight, I'm going to talk about reflecting in decades. And the reason I'm going to talk about reflecting in decades is because I first discovered this whenever I was going down a really low period in my life. Whenever I felt like I was just not accomplishing anything that I actually wanted to accomplish. I was in a very, very low period. And I I ended up talking with one of my friends, and he's like, "Look, dude, like, look at what you just did." Like, and he started naming all the stuff that he knew that I did, and I was just like, "Wow, dude, like, okay." And it hit me about looking at my life in a smaller period of time. Because what was really bothering me was I was comparing my life to people's life that were in their 60s, 70s, 50s, and I was very unhappy. And I was very discouraged of what I already accomplished, not realizing that I've already accomplished a lot, but I just wasn't where I wanted to be. So let's jump into this. I'm gonna show you something super cool. So we're going to talk about decades and how you can use this concept to really hone in on your current plans, make you feel really, really successful about your past because you are, all right, you've already accomplished a lot, whether you know it or not. And I'm going to show you and I'm going to prove it to you tonight. And then we're going to talk about a very, very, very good concept of values versus beliefs, and how whenever you talk with somebody that you just can't stand, how most likely y'all have more in common than you know and you'll ever realize, and I'll prove that to you as well. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into it. So this is what I call my reflecting in decades chart, and you notice over on the left you got, what skills do I have? Over on the right, what skills will I have? Big difference. And the reason I say that, my friends, is because you should always be learning. And if you are not learning, you are dying. And if you're dying, well, I'm sorry. Okay. On a serious note, think about when you was 9 years old, 7 years old. Think about this decade right here. The decade whenever you were developing your personality, all right? And your personality is going to determine the rest of your life, but you had no control over it. Like, you had no control over it. And whether you want to admit it or not, you can choose how you respond to things that happen in your future, by understanding how your past influences the way you think. So, for instance, if you roll into your second decade, 11 to 20, what are you doing? Well, now you're being influenced. If you're a guy, you're into girls, and you're getting shot down by girls. Or maybe you're not. Lucky you. Um, if you're a girl, maybe you're having the guy issue. But in this decade, this is where we really start to learn about rejection, like, to be honestly, right? And it's also where we start to learn more about responsibility in the second decade, right? But in our first decade, we are surrounded by so much accomplishment. From the years 0 to 10, we learn how to read, we learn how to write, we learn how to run, we learn how to jump, play sports. Like we learned so much. And then all of a sudden we hit into that second decade, and there's a period of time in there where all of a sudden society starts to frown on us, right? And we start to be held down by the environment that we put ourselves in or that our parents put us in. And you got to be careful about that, but also you got to realize what happened, because maybe you was blessed and you were in an amazing environment in your 11s and 20s in that second decade, and it was just the best decade of your entire life. But for most people going through school and high school and everything else, there's things that they really just didn't enjoy. And then all of a sudden we go into our third decade where now we're making our career. We're picking our spouse, our partner in life. We're most likely trying to enjoy life a little bit, going out, doing things we're not supposed to, right? Maybe you didn't do that. Maybe you did. Who knows? But either way, in this third decade, it's going to define a lot about who you are and who you'll become in your future. And what I realized is this hit me in this third decade. This is when I really realized that I needed to reflect in smaller increments of time, because we always overestimate what we can accomplish in 1 year and we underestimate what we can accomplish in a decade. And if you reflect your life and you think about what really happened in your 11s and 20s, right, in that second decade, what really happened 0 to 10 in that first decade, what really happened in the 21 to 30 decade, your third decade, you'll start to see a pattern. You'll start to see where you go up and you start to elevate your life, and then you come back down. You start to see this roller coaster looking pattern. And hopefully you're on a steady upward trajectory and you're consistently getting better and better and better. But maybe, life continues to throw curveballs at you. Like, who knows? And if that's true, then all you got to do is just understand that it's part of the process. It's the life cycle. We have to start and we have to end. And the sad part is we compare ourselves to people that are in the legacy stage and the health stage, and we look at where they already been in these decades. But what I really want you to see and understand, we really only have 7 decades on this earth. The average life expectancy of a male in America is around 72 years old. All right, 72 years old. It's crazy. The average life expectancy of a female in America is around 78. Now, think about that. Think about only having 7 decades. Now your life feels really short. And I'm not trying to make this depressing, okay? I'm not trying to make it depressing where you don't want to listen to this. What I'm trying to do is paint a picture for you so you understand how to really hone in on where you want to go. Because time is limited and time is precious, but yet we do things to just waste time. We get on our cell phone and we scroll and we look at things that will never help us. We look at things that won't change anything. We waste so much dabbling time. It's not even funny. So my point with this is you got to choose your hard, right? For me, I had to choose my hard. I had to choose to go to work as an air traffic controller. I had to choose to let all my coworkers look down on me, and I felt like they looked down on me. And not only did I feel like they looked down on me, like they told me that, right? Like I used to get in trouble for taking seller calls and real estate calls on my breaks. And I didn't get in trouble from the boss. I got in trouble from my coworkers. And on their breaks, they played on Facebook and they played on Instagram. And guess what? They're still working there, and I'm not. I'm living the life of my dreams, and they're living their life. I don't know if it's the life of their dreams or not. It's not for me to say, but what is for me to say is I had to choose my heart during those times, and what I chose to do is to focus on the decade that was coming, focus on building a portfolio that pays my family forever, focus on building something real, focus on building a real business where I didn't have to rely on the government. And whenever the government started doing weird things that I didn't agree on, I was able to walk away and never look back. And I'm blessed because of that. But maybe you have a totally different story. But either way, you're going to make a choice. Are you going to kick the can down the road? Or are you going to focus on that end result? Are you going to focus on that decade to come where you're actually accomplishing your goals and you're winning? Um, and you can flip the timeline here. So if we look at this and you're currently in your 30s, you're in your fourth decade. Well, if you look at where you want to be in your 50s, that's going to be your sixth decade. And if you want a house on a lake, if you want more kids, if you want to be able to spend time wherever you want to spend it and go on vacations and everything, what determines that is what you do in this decade. However, if you choose not to do things to move your life to grow as a human being, to grow as a man or a woman, then you're going to wake up and you're going to be in this legacy stage, this legacy decade of your 50s, your sixth decade on life. And you're going to look back and be like, I wish I would have. I wish I would have. What if I would have just sacrificed that? What if I would have just focused more? And that's a choice you got to live with. Live in faith, not fear. If you're a drifter, you're playing Candy Crush, you're looking at your phone and you're not focused on things that are actually going to move the needle. You're not learning, you're not skill stacking. And if you're driven, your head is down. People probably think you're weird. And that is okay because one day they will wish that they have what you have, what you built. And they will be looking back on their life. Man, I wish I would have done less partying in that area, or I wish I would have done less Netflix in that area. Have you ever thought about how much time you spend watching Netflix and TV? It is insane. Um, it is absolutely insane. It's crazy. So choose my heart. What do you not want, and what do I want? All right. I do not want to die young. I have to work till I'm 62. I don't want to have a divorce. I don't want to worry about money. I don't want kids who embarrass our family, right? I don't want little knuckleheads. I don't want to be homeless. I don't want those things. What do I want? I want to see my grandchildren, right? I want to grow old, enjoy life with freedom of choice, connect with my spouse. I want to do and go where and when I want. I want kids that I'm proud of, and I want a house on a lake with lots of land. And I guess that's what we built on this. Like drive a car. I don't like driving a car. I want a truck. I want a 2500, right? A big old diesel. So anyway, draw what you want in your life, and then on the opposite side of the paper, draw what you do not want in your life and make it happen. All right, because you can decide. And if you don't decide now, you're going to wake up one day and you're going to be in this decade where you should be focused on health, and you're going to be looking back and be like, man, in my 30s, in my 40s, in my 50s, I should have been building instead of spending all of these resources that I didn't have to spend. I should have been doing something instead of watching Netflix, eating tater chips. So anyway, this was on my mind and I want to share it, and hopefully you got some value on it. Reflect in your life in decades, live like no one else.